You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hello and welcome to the 42 Cast, your ultimate answer to fandom, geekiness, and everything. As always, I am your host Nathan, and we have another great episode lined up for you where we're going to talk about The Batman. But before we do that, I just wanted to mention that the last episode hinted that we'd be talking about something that had to do with Jennifer Connelly. Well, as it happens, I recorded that outro back when I didn't think that we would have the Batman episode ready in time for debuting here. But because of some changes in both the posting schedule and the recording schedule, I was able to get the Batman episode recorded, and I thought, hey, that's a lot more topical than what I had planned on talking about this week. So let's put the Batman episode in, and we're going to save our mystery episode that will have something to do with Jennifer Connelly for another week. So just my way of explanation for that there. In other news, Beth and I are watching Star Trek Discovery, or actually we just finished it and we're watching Star Trek Picard. Discovery did its normal thing of posing an interesting problem and then resolving it kind of awfully. Kind of looking forward to Picard. Really interested with what they're doing here. I don't believe that I've mentioned that we watched Reacher either. That kind of fell through the cracks of recording intros and outros for some episodes and watching that, and now we're recording this one. So we already finished Reacher like a week or two ago, and that was a surprisingly good show. I'd seen the Tom Cruise movies, never read the novels. I was intrigued by the character of Reacher, even though now that I've seen how Reacher is supposed to be, I totally get why people were upset with the Tom Cruise casting. But, yeah, no, that was a great show, and probably not going to do an episode on it, so I'll just put that here, that I absolutely loved it. Looking forward to season 2 on that, so yeah. After Moon Knight, which is going to be our next thing after Picard, I'm not sure what we're going to watch next. But I guess just watch this space and I'll let you know how that turns out. Also, wow, Arrowverse. Down to only 2 shows. It hasn't been that way since, 2014? Something like that. So that was surprising. I got that news just, a few days ago. So kind of surprised. We won't be able to talk about it for our next few Arrowverse episodes because those were recorded a while ago, but once we get to the Flash and Superman and Lois episodes, we'll be able to talk about that and how those are the only remaining shows in the Arrowverse, which is kind of crazy to contemplate. But anyway, that's enough of me nattering on. Now let's go to the podcast already in progress. Let's meet our cast for this week. So starting off, she is very selective on when she comes on the show. She is our cosplay queen. She is my lady wife, and that is Beth. Beth, how are you doing?
I'm okay, and I'm feeling like a little bit concerned about selective air quotes.
Selective?
Like, what the heck?
Oh, well, you're just very selective on what you're not on that often.
Well, I feel like when I am, I'm pretty quiet anyway.
Oh.
And I want to make sure I have something that I really want to talk about, and I'm never going to pass up something Batman related.
Okay. So what are you working on today?
All right. So this is going to blur the line into what's new with me. I recently took a new job with the Swedish embassy, IKEA, and I am making a waist apron to carry all my stuff. So it's really not interesting, but it's very practical, and there's lots and lots of pockets, and you know how I feel about pockets.
Right. Okay. Okay. So anything else you wanted to talk about other than that you work for IKEA now and you're making an apron?
Not really. This is
Okay.
the other reason why I'm rarely on, because I'm so boring.
Oh, okay. All right. Hey, I do the show and I'm incredibly boring, so
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Thanks. All right. Well, it is good to have you back on the show, Beth.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And so next up, he is our resident Bat fan. He is the guy that always has a drink in his hand, and that is my buddy James. How are you doing, James?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
Very good, very good. And what are we drinking today?
Well, as my glass says that people can't see, it says because work. Tonight I am drinking, it's called a Bothan of the Lowlands. It's a single malt Scotch whiskey. It's got some floral and citrusy like tones to it, but not like really overpowering, which I like, because I don't want to drink anything that's just tastes like a flower. Like it's never great. And I moved to the wrong state because they love coming up with that kind of stuff here. So yeah, no, it's good, smooth, it's easy to drink. It's not too dark and broody, which I was a little disappointed I didn't have something more dark and broody for the Batman. But
now, since there was drinking in the Batman, have you identified all the drinks?
I haven't. So fun fact, I just watched the movie last night when it came out on HBO Max. So I'm fresh for my knowledge, but yeah, I did not have time to go through and look up the drinks, but I probably will.
Hey, you're legendary, man. You're still legendary for bringing out like on Black Lightning, like exactly what whiskey he was drinking.
I did some internet research. I had to like take a photo. I had to like zoom in on the label. I was like, "What is that? I want it." Does
I
not
want to drink what
exist.
Jefferson Pierce drinks. And then it was made up. That was the worst part.
I know. It's a missed opportunity for DC. They should have done like a limited release.
Yeah, that's true.
Would have been like just garbage scotch, but like, well, all right. Well, we tried. We tried, everybody.
So what's new and exciting, James?
Not much. I just started this new job. I've been doing training, and it's a lot of review for me because I've worked in the banking industry for 15, 16 years. So a lot of it, I'm like, yep, I know that. Yep, that's okay. All right, sure. But yeah, no, it's going to lead to some good things, and I'm pretty energized. It's nice to be out of my house again, and not just like cooped up working from home all day with just me and my dog, although I do miss my dog. I wish I could take her to work, but yeah, it's going good.
All right, excellent. Well, it's good to have you back on the show, James.
Good to be here.
All right, so next up we have somebody who's relatively new to the cast. He is someone that enjoys Howard the Duck and various other things, and he is an actor, and that is my buddy Daviar. How are you doing, Daviar?
Thanks for setting me up with the Howard the Duck, love. I appreciate that. I'm doing well, my friend. And I want to shout out my friend Beth and agree that pockets do save lives. So get on your pocket game, everyone. Yes.
Yes, the pocket conversation comes up quite a bit. So yes, it is near and dear to her heart.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I geek out real quick, because I feel like I'm being set up?
What about pockets?
Yes, in Victorian era, their pockets were so large you could fit a live chicken in them. What happened?
Okay.
Do you think that's where we should go? Okay, very good, very good. I like that. I like that.
Yes, everybody, like your jeans, you just have pockets you can just pull out and shove a chicken in there.
Well, it sure would have made it easier to bring a pet mouse into the assembly in high school. I mean,
wow. There you go.
Okay.
That happened. True story. All right, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
This is my moment, Beth. This is my intro. Okay. You had your intro, Beth.
So what's new and exciting, Daviar?
Yes. Well, like everybody else, like James and Beth, working on a new job. And that's why I'm in a hotel right now, because I'm in transport to Canada. Going to be working at a theater in Ontario for a little bit. So yes, so if anybody's in Ontario, come check out the Stratford Festival. Be making some theater magic up there.
So were you there when they made the announcement that people don't have to be masked anymore on the plane?
No, I wasn't. But because I've only literally spent like 24 hours there so far. So no. So I'm looking forward to going back to this brave new world.
Okay. Because it's like everybody, they're showing all the footage of people just like cheering and stuff, and they're just ripping the masks off on the plane, and it's just like, oh good, now it's just a flying coffin. Great, yeah, cheer, tear the mask off. Woo! Yeah.
To be fair, the science does say that planes are the safest places to be with all that infiltrated air they have up there. So if you are on a plane, you are safer than most places without a mask.
So if you're going down, at least you're breathing fresh air.
I would think
heck yes.
I would think the fact that you are literally like pushed together like sardines, because your air doesn't even need to get to the thing. Like your air is already passing through 50 people before it gets to the filtration system.
It's a beautiful science thing. I wish I could site check it right now for us, because fact checking is all the rage right now. So I wish I had a source, but I will say, trust me.
Okay.
Trust the actor on filtration processes.
All right. Yes. Science is real.
Yeah, it is. Hashtag.
Right. So send your hate mail to Daviar. No.
At the Stratford Festival in Ontario, Canada.
Right. Buy a ticket. Go see the show so you can throw tomatoes and stuff on the stage at him. All right. I need to ask you: Has people ever actually thrown produce on stage?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No
because it's like the thing, like on TV, cartoons, everything. It's
Their
like
pockets
that's the
are big enough to hold produce.
Yes.
And now it all comes full circle.
Beth nailed it. Back in the days where people had chicken-sized pockets where you can bring lettuce into a theater, yes. Nowadays, no one is fitting that into their tight pocket squares. No.
Like my whole life I've been prepared for the idea that that's just what you do. You just bring a bunch of produce to the theater just to wait and throw stuff.
You can bring that back. You can be that guy.
But I wondered if in fact anyone ever actually had that experience. But
No, I've never been in the middle of a monologue and had a tomato slap me in the face at the same time.
All right, let's
do it at the Renaissance Festival.
Well, it's good to have you back on the show, Daviar.
Pleasure. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, and finally, he is the man you love to hate. He is the guy that does not acknowledge the existence of Pluto, and that is Ryan. How are you doing, Ryan?
Oh, I'm doing great, and like I have so many comments from what people have been saying. It's not even funny, I mean, first things first, I'm wearing a pro Pluto T-shirt. Right
my God!
Well, it's not pro Pluto. It's just that Pluto demands a recount. Okay. So and this. Now, granted, I'm only wearing this T-shirt because it was the only one that was clean. It has nothing to do with personal feelings, on the subject. But I thought that was
pretty odd.
Yeah, But I do have to say that in response to everyone else here, that I would argue that I am the most boring person on this podcast. Because everyone else here is starting new jobs. I'm winding my job down. So, the grant money's running out. So it's like, hey, we're sorry to do this to you, but you can stay. We just can't pay you. So
did they actually say that you can stay and they just want to pay you?
No, I mean, we made that joke was made, but in the obvious joking context, yeah. But I guess that makes me exciting or whatever. But or at least not quite completely boring. But I also I'm sorry, I just have to point out that chickens were much smaller in Victorian era than they are now. A modern chicken, how big
just like their waistlines, eye roll.
But and one other thing, I believe I too once flew recently and saw that safety video about the filtration system, on the planes. I think it was United was playing it for me. Like, our filtration system is the safest. And to their credit, they did cite their source in the video. So I was impressed about that.
Did you go back and check the source to verify?
Well, conveniently enough, they didn't have free Wi-Fi on the plane, so that made it difficult. Which is
I
obviously
mean, if the source
why.
was just the Affleck duck, I don't know if I'd take that.
Oh, Gilbert. But yeah, I mean, my whole philosophy on that is, I mean, intuitively, if the numbers say one thing, if the science says the science, that's true. But my whole thing about it is like, I feel like, yeah, the filtration system does protect me from the guy 4 rows back. I'm more worried about the dude right next to me, coughing on me.
Yep.
I don't know what the filtration is doing for me there.
Right. Well, that's the point I was trying to make. Like, anymore, it's like, you're so close to everybody. Like, I have a hard time. I mean, I get it. I'm a little overweight and everything, but it's like, I have a hard time, like, getting the seatbelt. Like, if I'm in the middle seat, especially, like, getting the seatbelt on and squeezing in and everything. It's like, we're already intimate with the people next to us. It's like, I don't know if the filtration system can help.
But here's the real battle, Nathan. Are you I'm taking both armrests. Like, get out of here. I got both of them.
I am way too.
And the charger.
I'm not aggressive enough for that, honestly. I'm usually like have to like contort my arms so that they're both like in my lap and my shoulders are in,
Right.
well, because I don't want to bother other people. So yeah, it's
Yeah, very broad shoulders there.
yeah.
Makes it hard to sew him things.
All right, well, but it's good to have you back on the show, Ryan.
Good to be back.
All right, so normally we'd have a 5-minute controversy, but because there are 5 of us on the show, and because we're talking about the Batman, we're already going to have a lot to talk about here. We're not going to do that this time, but we will pause for a promo from another fine podcast, and then we will get back to talking about the Batman.
Comic-Cons are back and fans are ready. Hear all about it on The Con Guy Show, where we keep you up to date on all the events, the movies, the people, and the conventions that drive your passions and feed your fandom. Straight from the nerdy heart of Hollywood, California, we are proud members of the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
And we're back. And like we mentioned at the top of the show, we are talking about the Batman. And of course, like so many other Batman films before it, the movie was mired in controversy before anyone saw a single second, because they released the casting news and that it was going to be Robert Pattinson playing the Bruce Wayne. And of course, everyone took to the internet. Oh my God, sparkly vampire as Bruce Wayne. How could they do this? It will be so awful. The movie will completely suck. How dare they, etc., etc. So out of curiosity, how does everybody feel about Pattinson as Batman and what they did basically with the Batman character in the movie? So let's start with you on this one, James.
Yeah. Oh man. So I was a naysayer when it was like the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, right? Like I was part of the crowd. And so after seeing Heath Ledger deliver an absolutely stellar performance, I was willing to give Robert Pattinson the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
And so because I mean, it was in the back of my head.
All right, I'm just out of curiosity, since you started with Nolan, how'd you feel about Ben Affleck? Did you also like freak out like so many people did?
No, that's the
Okay.
funny thing. It's like Affleck, I was just like,
Hilarious.
yeah, I was like, the thing about him, I was like, he knows he's like Daredevil was bad. Like he acknowledges Daredevil was bad. It was not a great outing for him. And so he came to the role like telling people like, I'm so much more committed to doing such a better job. And there is that like that space of what's the actor's performance and then what material are they given. And so I try to consider both of those factors whenever I'm making a judgment on the performance itself, because unfortunately there's good actors just given bad content to work with, and they can only do the best with what they have, like, and not everybody's going to deliver an amazing performance with not a lot to deliver with. Not everybody can be Jason Momoa on a screen and just go, my man, and like take everything.
Knockout punch from Momoa.
Don't get me wrong, I like Jason Momoa, but let's be honest, Justice League, he did not give him a ton to work.
Wow.
Well, Jason Momoa is one of those guys that can get away with just being the same character in everything that he does. So,
Pretty fair.
Wow. Shout out, Jason, wherever you are.
But as far as Robert Pattinson's Batman, honestly, I was good with it. Overall, I think his performance with where they decided to take this character, because for me, it's always been a breakdown with every Batman movie of, is the actor a better Bruce Wayne or a better Batman, or did he actually pull off both? And this is a movie I didn't feel, and maybe we'll talk about it a little more, but I didn't feel like they gave a lot in the way of who's Bruce Wayne. There was very little in the manner of that content, whereas
I think that was part of the point, but we will get to that.
Yeah, whereas as Batman, I was into it. I liked the suit. I think the design of the suit was really in line with a lot of what was in like the year one Batman comics, very similar in a lot of ways of that. Finding out that actually in the movie, like this is year two. So I was like, oh, okay, like a little more advanced. I like the fact that like the way he emulated this character. There were some lost opportunities with a few lines that I was like, come on, do it. Just give it to me. Give. He said, I am vengeance. Where's the rest of it? But yeah, I was overall happy. Like really, I don't have a lot in the way of negativity around how he portrayed the Batman. I thought he did a pretty decent job.
All right, very good. Yeah, I mean that's the funny thing, right? Because it's like way back in the day, Michael Keaton got so much flack before he played Batman. Then everybody was over the moon about it, and then like nobody questioned Val Kilmer because it was Val Kilmer. And then it's like, oh well, that movie wasn't great at all. And then George Clooney, everyone pretty much expected he's going to be a fine Bruce Wayne. He's not going to be a great Batman. And that's kind of what we got. But it's like, yeah, it's just funny how the whole like curve of like the Batman casting and how people get upset about it and everything, how all that goes. But
for sure.
Yeah. But Beth, what did you think about our Batman?
He was somewhere on the range between Sparkly Vampire and Kevin Conroy.
Okay.
Like so many other Batmans out there.
Okay,
I guess.
All right, but that's a pretty
like every
big
Batman
spectrum.
Exactly. I just needed to name drop that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I was one of those Sparkly Vampire people, because obviously it's coming from Twilight. Why wouldn't you have that reaction? But I think he did a really good job. For a while I forgot he was who he was, and not being able to recognize him in the mask at all was a huge bonus.
Okay.
From plot wise, not because he's ugly or anything, but like just plot wise.
Yeah. Okay. I'm shocked you're not bringing up something.
We'll get there.
Okay. All right. Will we though? Will we have time? I don't know. All right.
Well, you got to give me time to think about what you wanted me to say.
Well, James is already talking about the costume. I thought that you'd say something about the costume.
Yeah, but the costume wasn't doing the acting that we're talking about here. We're talking about the dude, not the costume.
Okay.
So yes, later.
I said, yeah, I mean, I did say casting, but I also said, what do you think of Batman? So you can talk about the costume. But all right, that's fine. Okay. All right. So Ryan, what do you think about Batman?
I mean, okay, so I guess everyone has their casting story, right? And I think there are two types of people in the world who are like, they prejudge a role based on who's cast in it. And I did. For me, it wasn't Heath Ledger. It wasn't any of these other great ones we said. It was when they cast the guy from the musical Oklahoma as Wolverine. And I was like, oh, no way, never again. And so, yeah.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
So ever since then, I usually give them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, I know we've talked about Nolan and Snyder and everything, but like, honestly, as far as the Justice League movies go, the casting across the board, that's the one thing I would never complain about. The current DC movies, I feel like their casting has been pretty spot on in the Snyderverse. The writing's a different story, obviously, but as far as I mean, I have mixed feelings because yeah, he is in year 2. It's his sophomore year, and that comes across. I mean, he's skilled, he's experienced, but like you can still see things where he's like when he parachutes off the building or glides off the building, you can tell he hasn't done this a lot, and he doesn't quite stick the landing very well. So there are problems there, and I feel like they captured that pretty well. As far as I was concerned, Pattinson made a good Batman. I feel like, and I know we're going to apparently discuss this in detail, but yeah, it's his Bruce Wayne that I had a problem with. With the caveat that Batman is obviously the most emo of any comic book character. It just came across so much. It bled over so much. It was just, whenever Bruce Wayne was on the screen, I hated it. He needed to until he took the mask off and became Batman, who he really is. I was kind of done with it. It was just not really working for me as Bruce Wayne. And maybe honestly, I think it was the hair. It was just if they'd give him a haircut, I think I would have been fine with him as Bruce Wayne.
Okay. Wow. Of all the things to be upset about. All right. All right. So, Daviar, what do you think about our Batman?
Yeah, I mean, so one, as an actor, I'm always going to give the benefit of a doubt to another actor in a role to see what are they going to do first before I judge it. And also for me, just to think that with where superhero movies are in the pop culture zeitgeist and with the multi-billion-dollar industry it is, to think that they are going to grossly miscast a Batman or a Spider-Man for me, it's unheard of. There's no way they're gonna risk that money that they can make on those particular figurehead characters with bad casting. So when they cast him, I'm like, well, he must be fantastic. He must have killed it in the audition, and he's must going to bring something interesting to the role. And for me, I like what he did. The first 10 minutes of the film, I thought he was going to crack the code and give us the greatest Batman we'd ever seen, with the whole noir style and how intense and brooding it was. But what happened was the movie's length kind of betrayed his performance, because that brooding one-note intensity that he had over the course of 3 hours really started to drain and kind of drag the film. And it's kind of like when that is your lead character and everything is focused on him, when he's got this oppressive brooding weight, the whole movie just kind of slows down. So once we got to like hour 2, I was like, I was really kind of getting a little frustrated with it. And to Ryan's point, that's where I really missed, or forgive me, who made the other earlier point about Bruce Wayne. That's when I really started to miss the counter ego of Bruce Wayne to kind of break up the monotony of the brooding character. So I like what he did, but I just thought for the course of a 3-hour film, it was a little too one note.
Okay. Yeah, I really appreciate the thing that I really appreciated that nobody's mentioned yet is that they made him into a detective, which is the one thing that we have not seen in any of the prior movie adaptations of Batman. Is it's just like he's just a guy with lots of gadgets that beats bad guys. I should say beats people up, because that makes it sound like he's just walking around beating random people up, but he beats the bad guys up, and it's like, okay, yeah, that is an aspect of Batman, but Batman is also supposed to be the world's greatest detective. And that side of it, we saw tiny little hints in Batman Begins, just like the tiniest little hints of that side of him, and then it was like the rest of the Nolan stuff was more like on the this has to be a big action showcase kind of movies. So but yeah,
to your point, Nathan, if I may, about the detective, I thought, and maybe this has been in some of the comics, I don't know, but just seeing it for the first time for me in the film, the addition of the recording contact lens to help with his detecting, I just thought was such a stroke of genius, and to show like how he's able to remember things that had happened and how to record things so that he can figure things out. I just thought that was such a genius and a real world aspect to bring to it to make it more believable. So yeah.
I completely agree, because I mean, again, in modern context, it just makes sense that he would then record, because now we have cameras that are like little tiny things, so being able to put it in a contact lens, it doesn't sound that far in the future, and then being able to record things to play them back later, so he can just go really deep into like, what did I see, especially with the cops there not letting him really linger at the crime scene, so he was just did like a quick pass. I love that scene because it showed him actually making a pass of the crime, whereas normally you'd see Batman, he would go up to the body, he'd say a few things, and then he'd leave. Right. And it's like, but this actually showed him making the time to make sure that he looked at every inch of that room before he left, so that way he could like play it all back and use the data that he had gathered. So I love that.
Well, and it makes sense with the way they portray the character at that point, where he is, they kind of like spoon feed us as this is a man who's on a mission. Like that's his sole drive. Like we even see it when, it's just like, oh, like we got to do a thing about Wayne. And he's just like, I don't care. I have to do this. And so it is like meticulous, and he's not sleeping a lot and all that. And it's like, it's all the things that I think I liked about the theory of Batman that somebody once like came out with. They're like, what would Bruce Wayne have to actually do in real life to be Batman? It's like, oh, CrossFit for like 80% of his day, and then like no real sleep, and then he goes out and he Batmans, and then he just does that again. And I was like putting that in my brain, I was like, all of this checks out. All of this makes sense right now.
Yeah, but he also has to earn his what? Was Bruce Wayne have like 3 PhDs? I mean,
Yeah.
online courses, I guess.
Pick your version. I mean, like, because I didn't think he had a formal degree or anything. It's just like he's just like read up on so many subjects that he's pretty smart. But
no, he went to the Phoenix University online. Yeah. That's what he did.
He took the Wayne Enterprises seminar course. All 6 classes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but yeah, no, and I like that, and I like and like you guys, I was struggling through a lot of the early part of the movie, like this thing, because I mean, he even said in interviews, Robert Pattinson said that like he was playing Batman like he was a rock star, right? So you get that sort of sense of, Bruce Wayne sort of presents himself as like a guy that's like totally burnt out, like not, really, like engaged with things, and you sort of get that sense of, okay, this is a guy that's like he's living his like rock star life, but then like all the times in between he's kind of, like not really able to be there, but I think the ending of the movie is what gave us the through line here. And I think, and I want to open this up to discussion. I think that this wasn't, because it clearly wasn't a Batman origin story. Like we talked about, it's 2 years in. I think this is a Bruce Wayne origin story, because by the end of the movie, he's realized that, because the whole beginning is about, oh, like I am like the darkness, I'm the shadows, I have to convince criminals that at any moment I could be there, and so that's the thing, like I have to generate that fear, because I can't be everywhere at once, but as long as people believe I could be around the corner, that's the power of the Batman. But by the end of the movie, he realizes he can't just be the shadow. That's why they made such a big deal of showing him actually helping out, and saving people, from the disaster and everything. Is that I think the point is that from here on, he realizes that, oh, maybe I do need to like have like to use that Bruce Wayne side to do something, to use this money, these resources, the things that, the politician was saying, like, hey, like, like you're not doing anything. And, the community and your parents were always like, really good about, donating and stuff like that. And so I think this was supposed to be like more of like an origin for Bruce Wayne. And so if they do make a sequel follow-up, I want to see that. I want to see that he's changed, and like he is using his Bruce persona more and is trying to be more of a positive force in the community. Because Batman can't be someone who's out in public and like doing a lot of things to like help like people in the day-to-day lives, but that's something Bruce Wayne can do. So just thoughts, anyone wants to
Let me jump in on that, because you're saying something that I'm really connecting to, because I had that same kind of inclination that this is more of the development of Bruce Wayne more than anything else, because the image that was in my head was to go back to Daniel Craig's Casino Royale, and how through most of that movie he's not the traditional Bond that we know, but in literally the last scene of the movie is when he shows up with the three-piece suit and the gun, and he's sort of become, now he's the James Bond that we recognize. And I was expecting that here, because Mayor Bella Real sets that up earlier when they're at the funeral, when she confronts him and says, your parents did this and this, and as far as I can see, you're doing nothing. So to kind of contradict a little bit to what you were saying, is that I thought it would have worked so much better or been so much clearer on that point if, instead of Batman being there in daylight saving the people, that maybe that's when Bruce Wayne showed up to kind of do his part, and kind of I don't know, it's like I wanted there to be something to show Bruce Wayne being more active rather than the Bat, because that was the thing that I felt the film missed, was that other persona. And I think the idea was there, but I just didn't see it in reality. So I'm with you on that point. I just wish they had an execution there to make that more real. And maybe it's that's him showing up in his suits or something, saying, what can I do? Or going to the mayor and said, you were right, or something like that. So just tell me where I can help, or something like that. So Bruce is just more apparent. But that was what I was thinking.
I really like what you were saying about this being a Bruce Wayne origin story, and I really felt that. And that's why I was really holding back on saying that earlier, where by the end of the movie, we're starting to see hints of the Bruce Wayne that we're used to in media, where he's got that more philanthropic side. And what Deborah was saying before about the Batman helping out when it should have been Bruce Wayne helping out, I don't think that would have worked in the scene, because people would have known that, hey, Bruce Wayne wasn't there when all this stuff went down, but Batman was. So Batman would be taking the lead. And I think there's like this little itch in my brain that's saying that there was a news thing saying that Bruce Wayne was funding a thing. And I think that's what we were getting for the Bruce Wayne side, while he was also doing the Batman stuff, trying to improve his image, like with the kids and stuff, which is, I always love when they have Batman on screen with kids.
Okay. Yeah, honestly, I can't remember if they did, but I think Davier's point though is like that they could have done something at the end to really positively show that, oh, now he's stepping forward as Bruce Wayne to do something, maybe not specifically helping by pulling people out of the water, because like you say, the way the scene is, it's kind of hard to do that. But
it could have ended with Wayne Tech drones showing up and rescuing people, or something weird like that, I'm kind of, I didn't really pick up on this, but I see what y'all are saying. It's almost like at the beginning of the movie, Batman or Bruce, whatever, he sees being Bruce as a chore. He doesn't want to do it. He has to do it. He has to go to his funeral. He has to do this. He doesn't, Alfred is just bugging him to actually take the mask off, not be a detective for a little while. And by the end of the movie, he finds out that he can wear that mask that is Bruce and still advance his own goals, still advance the crusade, the mission. It's not genuine. It's still an act, but it's it still serves his purpose. And I didn't really pick up on that, but I kind of see that.
Yeah, I mean, we get it in his interaction with the Riddler, after the Riddler's now been apprehended and put into Arkham, and the Riddler even says it point blank. He's just like, "This is who you really are. This is your truest self, and you love it. You enjoy it, you're good at it, and this is what makes you." And so I love that analogy, because it really kind of is like, throughout the course of history of Batman, except maybe before, like when Batman first came out, obviously in that kind of wonky era of comics where it was kind of comedic and goofy and all that, where there wasn't really a difference of alter ego. It was like Bruce Wayne was, Bruce Wayne, and then Batman's Batman, but like Batman's not dark and broody, like he's just kind of does odd, fanciful hero things. And like the character obviously advanced to that broodiness later on. I made the joke while we were watching the movie. that I was just like, man, I'm just waiting for this guy to show up with a boombox and like Good Charlotte blasting out of it for somebody. Because yeah, Bruce's character comes across very emo, like really emo. But I do agree with that. Like that assessment is Bruce is very tertiary. Like that character is very tertiary to everything. And I do like that natural progression because that's what I told my wife. I was like, that's what the second movie needs to have. We now need to see that emo haircut where, you know, some of the hair's draped down, like slicked back. Let's see that billionaire playboy philanthropist. Let's see the man represent everything he thought for so much of the movie, like his family truly represented, until, you know, he finds out about these events that are again shades of gray, like nothing is real specific. So it's let's see him become everything that he thought the Wayne family and the Wayne Foundation really was on the outside, and we know that that will be the mask he wears. And then at night, again, you know, his truest self, like, you know, indulging in the fear, indulging in, I'm going to stop the villainy of this city from overtaking this city. And really, with the way the movie ends, like Gotham kind of has, while things are going to be chaotic, a fresh start for him to do both of those things. And I like that. Again, I'm with you, Nathan. I'm all on board. Like let's see a second movie and see really what further depth Pattinson can add to this character. I want to see that.
Like at the beginning, we'll see him like slick back the hair and, you know, show off that face. But by the end of the movie, now he's getting an actual haircut, like a businessman level haircut.
Yeah,
and a spray tan.
I think that like also we're supposed to like view thematically like how he views the Riddler, and the Riddler is someone who's taken his idea to the point where he has no other self. He is just the Riddler, you know, but he's become so extreme because of that. And I think that's also like an important part of that, for like him to realize that, oh, like this is why people need like another, you know, like something to ground them if they're going to try to do this, because otherwise you literally do just become the vengeance, you know.
And you know, I think it had the element of that. I mean, this movie did something which no other Batman movie has done, and I know it's kind of changing topics to a different character a little bit or whatever, but it's when he thought he'd lost Alfred, that's when Bruce showed up. That's when the little boy showed up, you know, the scared, lonely orphan little boy. And you know, and I'll give Pattinson credit for that, because that came through his panic, his worry. He went from being Batman in that moment to being just scared again. And I think that's maybe Alfred has always been Batman's connection to humanity, to, you know, to a life beyond the cowl. And I mean, going forward in the next movie, they continue with Bruce, and obviously expand Alfred in that niche, in that role that he has with Bruce.
100%. Great point, Ryan, because I think so much of what was missing about the existence of Bruce was Alfred, because Alfred is so much the representative of Bruce's humanity, of Batman's humanity, and his foundation, and what keeps him to the ground. And there is very little Alfred in this movie, and I don't know. It feels like that's purposeful, because again, if we're talking about the rise of Bruce Wayne, so I would have hoped to have seen more of Alfred in this film, but definitely we have to have more in the second film.
Yeah,
especially if you have an actor like Andy Serkis in that part.
Yeah, because I feel like we didn't get a whole lot from Alfred, and it was just he was just there to nag Bruce a little bit, and then just to have Bruce finally realize that, oh wait, no, this is an important person to me, and you know, for his fear basically with the when Alfred gets blown up basically.
And his fear is so palpable, it's infectious to the audience. I was starting to panic in my seat, but I'm like, I know Alfred has to be okay, because he's like daddy. He has to be okay.
But at the same time, you're wondering, does he? Because I mean, you know, we talk about how Riddler, this is the real you. I don't think we'll ever get Batman going fully Batman until Alfred dies. I mean, that's his last tie.
Yeah. I really like the fact also that they, even though they tried to sort of paint a direction for Bruce's parents being murdered, that they left it ambiguous enough that it becomes a thing where it's like he'll never know for sure who actually killed them. And I like that because it means that that's why it does have to be a thing of he can't just have vengeance on a particular person. He can't just be like, you're the one who murdered my parents, so like it is, I'm going to take care of this. It becomes a all, like any, all crime, like any potential criminal, like anyone could have been it. And so I just need to stop, as much as I can, stop the potential of this ever happening to somebody else again. And so I like that they went that way, because that was one of the things where previous Batman movies have wanted to sew things up so neatly that like, oh, maybe Jack Nicholson or Jack Napier killed his parents, and so him fighting the Joker is him like, getting his, going full circle on that, or it's this guy in Batman Begins that was like this low-level criminal that was working for Carmine Falcone and all that kind of stuff. So I was glad that this left it ambiguous.
Yeah, great point, Nathan. And I think one directing moment, they kind of maybe hit it over the head with a sledgehammer. But just when he sees the little boy who is the son of Mayor Mitchell after Mayor Mitchell's death, and he just kind of has that moment with him, and it's just, and he's seeing himself in that little boy right there. And it's just, to your point, I think that constant connection that Bruce has to making sure that there are no other little kids left like that, the way he was left, is being such a driving force to his intensity and to his rage, I think was a clear focus that they had in the movie that really gave it that weight to that character.
Absolutely. That's why I'm always saying, like, whenever he's on screen with kids, it's just amazing. It's a completely different way that he acts, because he doesn't want them to feel how he felt. Even if they're going through a very similar trauma, he wants to ease that so they don't end up angry like him. And so when we see him at the funeral and he realizes, I can't be Batman right now because it would take me 15 hours to get sewn into that suit. I'm going to run across the room and move this child away from getting hit by this car, Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about gadgets and the sort of aesthetic of Batman. And so, Beth, I am giving you your spotlight now to talk about the Batman costume.
Dun, 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 dun. The thing that we see the most with Batman, of course, is his mask. That mask was so phenomenal. The way it was shaped completely disguises the underlying structure of his face, making him completely unrecognizable. And so when we see him with that mask, I couldn't tell it was Robert Pattinson. There was no glitter whatsoever. I don't know what you're talking about. And they even showed the detail of the stitching on the nose piece. And so I'm looking at this and I'm like, I am patterning this in my head and I should be paying attention to plot. Please help me. The fact that they showed those details is just chef's kiss, because if I can look at it and see how it was made, it makes it more believable and more practical from a storytelling perspective. I kind of wish that he wasn't so heavily armored elsewhere on the body, because I feel like slowly media has turned into making him like a bulletproof thing instead of relying on dexterity and finesse and evasion to keep those bullets from hitting him. But instead, he's just taking a machine gun to the chest, looking down and looking back at the person saying, you got more? Because that didn't work. But that was my only real nit with the costuming itself.
Luckily, no one aims for the face.
Right.
Yeah. They never do.
But Beth, if I can respond to that, I totally agree. I think I would probably even say this is my favorite iteration of the suit on screen, because not only of the practicality and the protection that it provides, but to your point, and I think it's a great point, like how it disguises him. Because going back and watching the Nolan Batman films, for me, I thought Bale looks so weird in that suit. It's like at the time I didn't think so, and James might be going crazy over that. Sorry about that. But to look at Pattinson in the suit, I thought it fit him so well in so many ways. And the thing that I did like about the fact that he was just taking bullets to the chest, unlike we'd ever seen, was that fit with the intensity of the character that he was presenting, because he was someone with a death wish. That I felt like this is a Batman that every night he went out, as he even says, I don't care what happens to me. That this is a Batman that is perfectly fine dying each night he goes out. So it's like it is his purpose to just stand there and take those bullets rather than to try to dodge. One, because I think he's just that enraged, but then two, what if his whole thing is about promoting fear, as he said is at the beginning of the movie, what scarier thing to see than that? A guy where you are putting a machine gun bullets into his chest and he's still coming towards you. So I thought it fit on a couple of levels to why he did that.
Yeah, I don't know. I had a little bit of I didn't like the fact that he could just take machine gun bullets and it didn't seem to even like knock him back. Because I'm like, okay, even if this is great body armor that's bouncing back, like the impact, like the momentum of those bullets should still be transferring into him, and you should just be able to just stride confidently. He's not supposed to be Superman, but at
least show him beat up afterwards. Have him taking off the suit and he's just like
bruises everywhere
and can barely pull it off. At least give us that.
Yeah, bruises like confetti. That's what we need to see.
that is one of the things I really appreciated about the Whedon version of Justice League, is that scene where they show, you know, Affleck's Batman he's just moving so painfully, and it's just like, oh my god, like I was too old for this like 20 years ago and everything. And I'm like, oh man, I really love that idea of like the aging Batman who's just like destroyed his body. I thought that was like really good. But anyway, but the thing I really liked about this is like everything is sort of shown as like this is year 2 Batman, whereas like, you know, in Batman Begins it's just like, oh, Wayne Tech has already perfected everything he's going to need to be Batman. He just needs to paint it black and he's already got everything. Whereas in this, it's like you can tell that this is all stuff that, yeah, he might have money, but he's like cobbling stuff together, like and you know, just making it work. The scene where the Batmobile stalls was great.
Genius. Absolutely genius.
Yeah.
You just reminded me of a thing.
Okay.
So the first time Batman walks on screen, remember what I said to you?
Yeah.
His boots are so freaking loud.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like a clonk, clonk, rattle, clonk. That's not the Knight. The Knight does not walk around like shaking a maraca. It's just there. You turn around and boom, you're getting Batman. The man cannot sneak away if his shoes are like louder than a cicada. What is going on? That was my biggest nit, was those stupid loud boots.
But he never says he's the Knight. He only says he is vengeance. That's it. That's all he is. He's just vengeance at this point. So loud and just smashing people.
If everyone thinks he's in that shadow over there, they could always tell by the sound of his boots. They rattle when he breathes.
It was raining, which will make that much louder because of the squelchiness.
If anything, the rain should drown it out.
It's also in the subway. It's probably good acoustics, but this, from a development angle, this makes perfect sense, right? Like it's year 2. He's taking bullets after bullets after bullets. By year 3, he's like, you know what? I need to be like a little bit more stealthy. This is starting to hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
So next movie he needs to be. They need to play it up where he's like, you know, he's got two broken ribs and like he's like, he starts taking a ballet class or something. He just gets a little bit lighter on his feet. Yeah.
This is the difference of the Batman in this compared to other iterations of Batman. So many of the iterations that exist in the comic book world, video game world, like that Batman was trained by the League of Shadows. Like Ra's al Ghul was the man who made him my man. And so he had, you know, all those martial arts skills, but this is a world where it's established. And again, why I'm like, I feel like Matt Reeves really like pulled a lot of inspiration from like the Batman Year 1 graphic novels, where it was, he's trained by Alfred. Like everything he knows is from Alfred when Alfred was SAS. So very much more like militaristic, a lot more brutal in its delivery. And so, yeah, I agree. Like the costume looks like a natural progression into that sophomore year of his being a hero. where we have that plating, which I told my wife, I was like, because I'm a gun guy, like I have rifles, I have handguns, I have shotguns, I've fired all of these things at varying distances and seen the differences in damage that they can do.
It's okay, James, we know you're from Montana.
Yeah. So it's one of those where I go, like we see the scene where these guys have all these rifles, and I'm like, those are at least SKSs or their minimum 270 caliber rifles. There's no way they shoot him from 10 feet away and it's just like king, and he's just like, oh, it's no big deal, guys, I'm okay.
Right, that's what I was saying. Like, it's not like they're little like revolvers, right? Like this is like
so I don't know what kind of armor that is, but I want it. I want it bad. But yeah, I do, and it is kind of like that is the best scene to me in emphasizing the armor, is that very first opening scene where the first thing we really see is the boot, and it's just like, man, that looks like a basic like steel toe kind of work boot, like maybe military boot, nothing way over the top or fancy. And then you go up the scale, and it's just like as the camera moves to pan over the body, like we're seeing varying degrees of armor, because obviously like this is a Batman who he's taken some punishment, he's taken some hits, he's probably been cut a number of times and whatever he's come up against. So like the armor naturally evolved. I found it interesting that the cowl itself didn't evolve in the same way. Like I agree with Beth, I love that detail of the stitching. I like how they connected that with the Riddler, because even when they show the Riddler's mask up close, very similar. It's very homemade, and it's like there's all those details to the mask of somebody who like this mask means something to the person wearing it. It wasn't just hodgepodge. It wasn't 3D printed. Like this was the thing that had meaning when they made it. The seeing the gauntlets, like we don't have the standard Batman like, oh, these are gauntlets that can repel anything. He's got steel reinforced rebar like threaded through it, so he can actually deflect a blow without shattering a wrist. I thought those details were just amazingly well done and very much apropos to the character and like what and where he is in his evolution. So yeah, I think another movie we could see even further, like where it's like, yeah, now he's finally stepped into, yeah, I'm Bruce Wayne. Oh yeah, I have a boatload of money available to me. Why don't I invest in some of my gear and make
as
it
long as he doesn't end up
better.
looking like Batfleck, because Batman's armor looks absurd because he looks like a walking tank. Hated that thing. But the flexible leather mask means that he's the first Batman actor to be able to move his head.
Well, not technically true.
Yeah.
Because they did develop the Bale suit to the where he could turn his head.
Yeah, they just made it so, instead of like this much, that's what that motion was. I was just like, that's all you could see of Batman's mouth in the cowl in it was like here, and it was just like, God, that has got to feel so uncomfortable. That's got to be the worst mask to work in. Like, while the face is concealed, like that's part of the reason I think he had fish lips through so much of those movies, was like everything's just pushed forward because that mask was way too tight in the Nolan movies.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how they develop the suit, because to all of your points, I think this was, for me, the most intimidating Batman because of these things that we're talking about. Because I think the kind of makeshiftness of the suit gave it such a realness and such a and such like an intensity to it, that it wasn't sleek, that it wasn't like high tech. And I think that just like the earthiness of it just made it so much more intense, and therefore and for me like unnerving. So I think like if they do make it a little bit more sleek, I wonder what it loses. Because yes, Beth, you make the perfect point that yes, those boots are loud, and if they go to the sleek boots, that makes much more sense. But when you're talking about this, for me, with his characters, like I'm about fear and stoking fear, and when he comes in with those stomps and it's just like echoing as he walks towards you, that was so effective for me. And so it'll be interesting to see what the trade-offs are as they enhance these aspects of him.
Yeah,
for sure.
All
I
right,
also
well-
noticed that the soles of those boots were like 3 inches thick. It reminds me of every
Yeah.
cosplay boot I've ever seen, and I'm looking for something else.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to talk about the Riddler as the other, the counterpoint here to Batman throughout the movie. Definitely a very different take than we've seen with the Riddler before. So Daviar, why don't you start us off on this one? What do you think about the Riddler and how they depicted the Riddler?
Much like with how they introduced Bruce Wayne or introduced Batman, I thought the Riddler was about to break the world. I thought it was about to be maybe the best villain we had seen in a superhero movie. The way he is introduced in Mayor Mitchell and like this back shot in shadows and just the intensity of how he kills him, the opening kill, I just thought that I was all ready for the serial killer Riddler, and I think I normally don't care, or I'm not a big proponent of R-rated comic book movies. I mean, because I know you can do as much as you can push the bar with PG-13. We can normally get what we want, but I think this is the first time I felt, maybe this movie could have been better as an R rating, because I think the more intense they could have let the Riddler be, I think the more effective he could have been, because I think he went up to a line that they clearly didn't want to cross. But I think the world that they had created would have fit that dark of a Riddler. So I really liked a lot of what they did with him, but at the same time, I felt like it never crossed that line into true greatness for me, because of the limitations of how far they could go. Because it's Batman, this is the potential $1 billion movie. We can't let this get too dark. So, but a lot of the aesthetics, like the costume, I thought was fantastic, and I like the general plot, overall motivation he had, what his purpose was. So a lot of things worked for me, but I did have some issues with how far they could take it.
Okay, Ryan.
Kind of by default, the Riddler's a silly character. I mean, it doesn't really work outside of a cartoon or an Adam West project. So you have to update the character, and I feel like the comparison I made, or when I came out of the movie, was thinking, this is what Snyder tried to do with Joker, but done right. The Joker does not need updating like that, changing like that. Yeah, Heath Ledger's Joker was phenomenal, and kind of a more modernist version, but changing the Joker to the Jared Leto version was unnecessary. This was changing the Riddler to what Snyder wanted for the Joker, if that makes sense. He's kind of like an anarchist. He's an incel. He's got his whole thing going, and it was perfect, and it made the Riddler relevant, not just a joke. I mean, there's a reason that the only other Riddler we've had on the big screen was Jim Carrey, up until now. And so it made him terrifying. I was scared of this Riddler in a way I've never been scared of any other one before. I mean, yes, the very first scene, when we're introduced with him, what do we hear? We hear him breathing, and it's like this just deranged, just intense. It's like a horror movie from the 80s where you just hear the person breathing over the phone, and someone's about to die. The cheerleader's about to die. Someone's about to die. And that's exactly what happened here. But and carried throughout the entire movie. And then when you see his face, because we go what, 2/3 of the movie without seeing what the Riddler looks like, and we finally see it, and it's it's almost cherubic. It's just this round face. It's this person works at freaking Barnes and Noble. And it's just like, yeah, now I'm even more scared. So all in all, I think they did a fantastic job with him, with his brilliance, with his origin of being an orphan, and his kind of weird sort of almost connection to Bruce. At the same time, he was nothing more than just a foil for the Batman. So in that sense, he was up to date and great for this movie, because we didn't want too much. We didn't want another Heath Ledger, because then he would steal the movie too much. This needed to be Pattinson. This needed to be the origin of Batman, and I think it hit every note.
I just want to say, before we go any further, Barnes and Noble, send your lawsuit to Ryan at geekstranger.com for libel.
Barnes & Noble, you can look at my employee file. I worked there, and I did sell. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's even creepier.
I mean, the Barnes & Noble stories I could tell you.
Let's not go too far down that rabbit hole. All right, Beth, what do you think of the Riddler?
I had a hard time knowing what to think for the longest time because my biggest exposure to the Riddler has always been, if you're so smart, why aren't you rich?
Right.
And of course, we were never going to hear that line. And I just that anticipation, was just wanting to hear that for nostalgia's sake, was my own fault for ruining the character in my own brain. But
did you want him with like the little bowler hat and the tie? And...
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. But like, just it was hard for me to recognize him as being as the Riddler visually.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't really have to have that kind of visuality. You just need to have the person telling the riddles. That what therefore makes a Riddler. And like they said, when the mask comes off, that was terrifying because that's just someone you pass on the street and don't give them a second look. You don't know if they're going to turn around and knife you. That's insane. It's really chilling to think about today's society, how, just as dangerous walking down the street if every other person could be a Riddler. And the mass following that he developed over his thing was even more terrifying. You can see how people can be so easily influenced based on someone's charisma or the goals that they're setting, that a lot of extreme people can flock to that. And that makes it more than just one person. It is a crowd that he empowers with his agenda. And that's also very terrifying.
Yeah, I mean,
It was great.
There's a whole broken mirror thing that they're trying to do between Batman and the Riddler. And, I mean, I don't think we've ever gotten that as more, because, usually everyone's so fixated on the Joker is the opposite of Batman sort of comparisons. And so it's like, everything that Batman is, the Joker is the opposite of that. But like, I think it's kind of interesting to go with the Riddler, who's also supposed to be this incredibly, intelligent guy, just like Batman is. And to say like, actually, they're very similar, and to like make these two characters in this movie so that they are sort of riffs on each other, and even to the point of where Batman has actually inspired the Riddler directly. Whereas like the point in other things that have tried to say like, hey, because Batman exists, these other things happen, is just because, it's more that, the sort of craziness or sort of ostentation of this guy dressed as a bat, like sort of inspires people just to put on crazy costumes. But this is more of, no, like his whole goal, his whole mindset, everything. He's trying to be like Batman, and he thinks that this is something that Batman will be like, yeah, man, like this is great. And so that's when he then inspires in other people, is to have them be his as the Riddler, to have them be his followers. So it's very interesting, like how they did that juxtaposition, so that I think it is supposed to be sort of a wake up call to Bruce when he realizes that, oh my God, like I thought I was making things better by intimidating people, but I've also inspired like other people to be like way worse. And so that's where I think that's going to come to a, like, hey, like I need to like balance this with something else. So again, I think that goes back to the whole theme of this being an origin for Bruce. But James, what do you think about the Riddler?
God, I love him. Oh, I love him. I love him so much. So Paul Dano is one of those actors that he continues to surprise me. Like the longer he is in the acting game, the longer he moves through Hollywood, he just keeps getting better. Like a good whiskey. He just keeps getting better over time. He really does. I thought his delivery of this character was, as we've all said, very chilling. Because you look at Paul Dano and you go, that guy could be my neighbor. Like he just has it's not that like he doesn't stand out, but he does have just the very plain kind of feature to him. And that is what makes that character definitely terrifying. Am I a little let down that, no bowler hat, no question mark cane? Yeah, a little bit. But the thing is I think this character actually encapsulates so much of the character that is the Riddler in the Arkham Asylum video games and Arkham City video games. That Riddler's super sadistic, super sadistic. All of his riddles are very similarly laid out, where it's like there's a riddle and there's lives on the line. There's a whole DLC where he straps a collar to Catwoman's neck that's an explosive device, and it's just like, you got to answer all of my riddles. Every time you answer one right, one of the one of the triggers on the device will unlock. So, but if you get just one of them wrong, there goes Kitty Cat's head. And I was just like, God, it's so good. I think he's more sadistic in a lot of ways, in terms of making it more realistic to kind of that serial killer mentality. I mean, I've been watching a lot of like true crime kind of stuff lately, and I was like, this guy, somebody's been taking notes from all that kind of stuff, because he is on that kind of level. And you can tell he is a very displeased individual. He's disgruntled about obviously the people he's after, but like society as a whole, like the fact that society seems to be blind to what the rich are doing, and the fact that there is corruption within that hierarchy, and he's on a mission, like, I'm gonna bring it to light. And man, if he doesn't succeed, and that's the story of a villain I like a villain who's got a conviction. He feels like what he's doing is right, like it is real for him, and he succeeds. And that's something like in movies that I struggle with sometimes when we have a bad guy, is the bad guy has a goal in mind, but like we don't really see him reach that goal. And I love the way it happens. I love the fact that it's like in the comics, in so many iterations of Batman, it's always been Batman's figured out what the Riddler's whole thing was, and like, and dismantled it and saved saved Gotham for the umpteenth time from the Riddler. And this was, no, like, again, we have sophomore season Batman. He is a detective, and man, is he good at what he does, but he missed something. He missed something really key, and that ultimately causes the city to suffer. And so the Riddler still kind of falls through. I love that moment where a lot of this character reminded me of one interpretation of Hush that they've done in the comics and in animated, where the Riddler was actually Hush, which was really strange and interesting, but he's similar in many, many ways. We get to that point where it's like, oh, does he know who Bruce is? Has he figured it out? Does he know who the Batman is? And man, the tenseness of that whole scene, I was like, is he there? Like, I'm right there with Robert Pattinson. I'm like, does he know? Does he know? And then in that reveal of like, nope, he doesn't. And the surprise, the shock from Batman of like, he doesn't know who I am. Oh man. Oh, I thought so many things were going to happen. It's just the chemistry between Paul Dano and Robert Pattinson in this movie, I thought was really, really palpable. I thought they delivered on that villain hero relationship in such a great way that I don't honestly think I've seen in a movie interpretation of the Joker. I mean, again, as we've said, like, Heath Ledger was wonderful in The Dark Knight with Christopher Nolan, but I never felt that kind of power between their relationship. It just felt like something that we acknowledged from the comics and was very much like, oh yeah, they'll be doing this for a while because that's what we expect. But this felt really palpable to me. Yeah.
No.
Like a disturbing intimacy, which is weird. Like, I'm not I wasn't ready for that. And I was just like, I love it, but
no one's ready for that.
No.
If I have a response to that, James, I love everything that you're talking there about that. I think that's kind of stirring up in me and making me think, would the Riddler have been a little bit more interesting even if they didn't give him the trope of like the incel, group of the outsiders? Because I feel like, especially now in this time that we're in with the pandemic, with like the economy, a sense of isolation, I feel like the Riddler could have been even more intimidating and more effective if he had a wider reach. That he was truly, if he's talking about the rich who are the problem, those in power or who are the problem, I think it would have been so much more relevant and intense and terrifying if his reach was greater than just like, the white male incels.
Right.
And it was more great. It was more overreaching because and truly showing that Batman truly has his hands full, because he truly has to save the entire city, because the entire city now could be a potential audience for the Riddler, because everybody is aware of the struggle that they're all dealing with. And that's why his plot to destroy the city could be even more effective if everyone is like, yes, burn it all down, because we've all been victims. So I for me, I think that was a missed opportunity, and hearing you break it down like that, because I think that could have been so much more powerful if his group of people was just women, it was Black people, it was everybody in his group, to show that that Bruce truly has to revision the entire city.
Yeah,
Make
for sure.
Gotham great again.
Yeah, and whoever's vision that is,
Right.
It's kind of interesting on that point, because like the Riddler, the Joker, every classic Batman character was written before the internet. So
Right.
we're updating these two, and it makes perfect sense that they would create a following. Like, this Riddler, I don't know if Intel, yes, Intel, but also more like QAnon would be probably a little bit closer comparison to him and what his thing is. But the difference being his conspiracy, like James said, pretty much turned out to be true. So it's almost one of those, well, yeah, I'm not rooting for him because he's crazy and killing people, but like, I can see why he's crazy.
It's funny because the thing that I naturally got to is, if Batman is the rock star, he's the fanboy that thinks that he owns the rock star, and
he's owed something.
That he's owed something. Right, exactly. Like, that's where I was getting from it. And this is the fan club, like they're all we're gonna do the
That's true.
Yeah.
Because he does feel that way when Batman talks to him at Arkham, where he's just like, you and me, man, we're in this together. Right. You directed me to the thing that I never could have accomplished on a physical level, but you were right there with me. You get it. And then like that moment when Batman's like, no, bro, like we're not on the same page here.
And you were singing directly to me. You were singing that song to me.
Right, exactly. Yeah. That's what I was getting out of that. And like, that's the but I did think it was funny though. The Riddler was like, I'm the brains and you're the brawn, and I'm like, oh man, like for Batman, that's so insulting, because he's supposed to be really smart, himself, and for it to be like, oh, you're the brawn. But yeah, let's talk about Commissioner Gordon. I love Jeffrey Wright anyway, and I just want to say, just before anyone else goes,
why isn't he on this podcast?
Yeah. If Mike had wanted to be on this podcast, he definitely would have been a shoo-in. I would have had him on, but unfortunately, we have a friend that is a spitting image of Jeffrey Wright, and he makes that joke every time that he's on. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, but my favorite scene by far with him is when they're about to go into the club, and he pulls out his gun, and Batman's like, no guns, and he's like, hey man, that's your thing. It makes me laugh so hard, because it's like, hey, I'll work with you, man, but I'm not like taking up your philosophy or anything. Like, I don't have any crazy body armor or anything.
I mean, they
That
did
was pretty inspired,
comedic
though.
moments like that, though, where it's just like, when he's got the thumb drive, and I was like, this feels so out of place, but at the same time, I love it.
Yeah. So James, what do you think of Gordon in this?
Man, I loved him. Like, the thing is Jim Gordon, I know there's always, every single time there's a comic book based movie and there is an actor of differentiating color put into the role of a character in the comic, there's always going to be backlash. There's always going to be fans who are like, no, Gordon's a white guy. And I'm like, but why does he have to be? He doesn't need...
this one didn't drive people nuts like Catwoman did. But let's
no.
hold on.
but at the same time, it's like, again, we don't... It's never about the color of the person. It is, in my eyes, about how do you represent the character.
Mm-hmm.
Gordon is the kind of guy I loved everything about this, especially the fact that this isn't Commissioner Gordon. This is Detective of Homicide Gordon. So this is a man, he's seen a lot in the last 2 years, within Batman's whole role. And so, like, he's seen some terrible stuff. He's worked a lot of these cases, and I thought Jeffrey Wright just delivered. I thought he represented Gordon as the strong-willed detective that he is, the man who's always ever searching for the truth, and will never succumb to that corruption. That's not... Jim Gordon will never be that guy. He is, by and large, the definition of what we would like to see in many iterations of policing. Like, this is a man who upholds the law, and he upholds the righteous, and he is there to defend the innocent and the weak, 100% behind a badge. And I thought Jeffrey Wright did a phenomenal job. God, there's so many great scenes where I think he portrays the character really, really well. I love the scene where he's like, he tells the like interim commissioner or whatever, he's like, let me talk to him. Just let me talk to him. I'll work this out. And like, they're having this really serious, like what looks like behind closed doors, a super serious conversation. And he's just like, and it's all like low tone whispers. And he's just like, all right, you're going to have to hit me. And then you're going to like make the back exit. And like, as they're going through it, just like Bruce, like just cold cocks him. It's just like, bam. And he makes out. And then like later he's like, did you have to hit me so hard? And he's just like, I pulled my punch. And it's just like, this right here feels like the relationship that Bruce and Gordon had in those roles of detective and Batman. I felt it all the way through. I thought it was well represented. I'd be interested to see more of what they're going to do with Gordon. Obviously, at some point, he will become commissioner. I am interested to see how soon that's going to be. I'm also interested to see if they ever delve into Gordon's home life, with his wife and those issues, their son, and what they decide to do with that. Because in a couple of iterations of the comics, like his son becomes like a horrible psychopath as an adult. In others, like if they'll even reach to that, or if it'll be like, talking about Barbara and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm really interested in the development of Gordon. Jeffrey Wright, you're A+, man. You're A+ for me. Like, there ain't nothing I don't like about him. And in this movie, I think he knocked Gordon out of the park.
All right. Daviar?
Yeah, look, Jeffrey Wright is one of the best actors working in Hollywood today. So instantly when he was cast, it was just, yeah, that tracks in every way. I'm here for it. Let's watch it and have fun. So, there's not much more I can add on that. I think, James, to your point about seeing more of him, and the only reason I would even mention this is because the movie was 3 hours. And it's that I wish they would have, in a 3-hour time frame, I wish they would have shown a little bit more of what makes Gordon Gordon. Like, how in a place this corrupt, like what leads him to have the foundation that he does? How does a man like that stay on the up and up? And what does he deal with in order for being the good cop in a bad cop environment? So it's kind of like to see more of kind of what led these two entities to come together and trust each other. I would have liked to have kind of, we see their banter and we get their rapport, but kind of seeing what Gordon has to deal with that pushed him to this vigilante as a cop who has this high foundation, these high standards. For him to go work with a vigilante is a major action for someone like him. So what kind of got them there, and how do they how are they developing that? I would have loved to have seen that in a 3-hour movie, but I think the performance is on point, and I can't wait to see more of just how that builds in the next movies.
Yeah, that's how we got 5 seasons of Gotham.
Yeah, there we go. There you go. Shout out Ben McKenzie.
That's we already got the Gordon origin story. He just,
Yeah, but this time we got a much better actor.
He just darkened up a little bit.
Much better actor.
Yeah. All right. So
no
Ryan,
disrespect to Ben.
Yeah. Ryan, what do you think of Gordon?
Oh, phenomenal. I think it takes a certain level of skill and just power to basically follow a role played first by Gary Oldman and then J.K. Simmons and like knock it out of the park and do probably a more memorable performance than both of them. And that's over 3 movies for Gary Oldman. I mean, this was the Gordon of my dreams, you know. This is the one but this is the one like I've been looking forward to, because this is the one that's like a partner with Batman, not just a sidekick or a tag along or something like that. And I mean, I'm going to give this all credit to Wright, but he had more chemistry. He had so much chemistry with Pattinson in this role. Of course, I think he has chemistry with whoever he's performing with, you know, Daniel Craig or whoever, yeah, Westworld, you know. But it was just the guys. I would watch him in anything. I agree. Like I couldn't get enough of him. The only, and honestly, it seems like 90%. I don't know if this is true, but 90% of the humor in the movie involved him, or he was in the scene. And you know, these moments that pretty much alleviated the tension, and they're necessary. And the fact that he was in it took a scene like where Batman and Gordon, neither of them apparently know any Spanish whatsoever, so they don't even recognize Earl. You know, it takes that, something which honestly in any other context would have thrown me right out of the movie. Oh, and to be corrected by the Penguin of all people. Any other context, and I would have been like, God, this is so stupid. But he makes it work, and he's, you know, he makes me go like, yeah, I needed this moment, just this moment of levity, and now we're back into the seriousness of it.
Yeah. Gotham is one of those strange cities where the second language of most people is Esperanto.
Yeah.
So Beth, what do you think of Gordon?
Goodness me, everything's really been covered. I think like Gordon has always been like the light in his relationship with Batman, that he keeps him elevated in a higher functioning place, morally speaking, because I think it would be very easy for Batman to just spiral and go absolutely batty insane. But I think Gordon just helps him not go that far. He keeps him afloat. I'm really struggling with words. But yeah, I just really loved the performance, the chemistry, the banter, everything. It was so good. I couldn't ask for anything more.
You got to figure that to do what he does, like Bruce has to see that there are other people that aren't corruptible, right? Because if there wasn't anyone, like, you know, like what would be like the motive? But he's like, he's doing this for the good people, right? For the moral people, the upstanding people, the people that aren't, you know, hurting others by their actions. And so Gordon is like sort of like, you know, a person that he can look up to and be like, you know, this is not only just to work with him, but also as like one of the people he's doing this for, is that Gordon needs help. Because, you know, the Gotham Police Department, you know, like they even mentioned, they're almost all bought off. Like, yeah, Gordon was able to pull together like a few good people, but it's like for the most part, they're all bought off. So like Gordon needs the help of Batman, because otherwise, you know, the corrupt would have the upper hand.
What it is Alfred is Bruce's home daddy and Gordon is Bruce's work daddy.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's fair.
The man's an orphan, but he's got 2 other dads.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they even mentioned that in some iterations that he looks to Jim as a father. So,
well, in some iterations, Jim was the first person on scene after the Waynes were killed, and so like there's always been a little bit of that relationship.
Right. That's one of the things I liked about Batman Begins, to give there a reason for why Bruce sought Jim Gordon out specifically. as the person to look into to make sure, like, is this somebody I can work with, is because he remembered him from when he was comforting him from his parents' death. And so
Put
yeah,
a blanket
I thought that
around a
was
child's
cool.
shoulders or something. Yeah.
So yeah. All right. So yeah, then we already brought it up, but of course we have Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, which did of course lead to some controversy.
What?
Which is funny, you know,
Dumb.
you know
internet?
your history of
But
People are
she's
Catwoman.
dumb.
How dare they?
Yeah.
What?
It's not exactly the first time, but
Or the
But-
second, you know.
right. So yeah, Ryan, why don't you start us off? What do you think about our Catwoman in this?
I mean, my history of Zoe Kravitz is limited. I remember her from Fury Road, but other than that, I don't really. I'm not very familiar with her. So for me, this was kind of like my first outing to judge her as an actress, and I mean, it was fine. It was great. I feel like she had the same aesthetic and vibe as Pattinson, and kind of she's in sort of this low key, DIY Catwoman role, and I like the fact that she wasn't just like pretty much just like some iterations of Catwoman. She's got, she's doing it not for herself, she's doing it for her friends, she's doing it for her roommates or whatever
Her cat.
relationship. Yeah, her cat. Yeah. Whatever relationships she's currently in. And like every other iteration of Catwoman, they do the will they won't they with Bruce. But I do feel like we've talked about how in the end of this movie it is an origin story for Bruce, and I feel like she was integral to that, because like let's be honest, I mean, in this throughout most of this movie, Batman thinks he's alone and doesn't have needs or whatever, he's just aloof. And here comes Zoe Kravitz, here comes Catwoman. He's like, you know what, maybe I can do both. Maybe I can have relationships, I can have people in my life. And all it took was the gorgeous woman to teach him this. And so I don't know, maybe that's how we get the playboy billionaire in the next few movies. But I thought they did actually a good job of explaining her relationship to her father, to Falcone and everything. And Totoro was great in that role as well. So yeah, I mean, she did everything she was supposed to do. She hit all the notes she was supposed to, and best of all, it seemed like the cats on set really liked her. So that was enough for me.
Okay. All right, James.
I was a little back and forth. And it had nothing to do with her as an actress. Again, we come back to something I talked about much earlier on in the podcast, which was the material that they gave her to work with. I hated the suit, and here's why. I liked the cat suit part of it. Like, that was like in line with the character. It was that shoddy mask. It bothered me on so many levels, that this woman who obviously takes really good care of her what look like really natural nails, and I don't know how much nail strengthener to keep those things from brittly shattering, but like that, she obviously has like martial arts experience, all of these other little details, and it's just like, but it's like this shoddy ski mask that like she uses, and I was like, it's not even like a well cut ski mask. There's so much of her face, like her eyes and like her mouth. I was like, I'm pretty sure people could ID her if they needed to. So I had some issues with that. That really bothered me. And I understand this is a young Catwoman, and I kept trying to take it from that perspective, but it really just kept getting to me. As far as her chemistry with Pattinson, I thought the chemistry was good. I thought the chemistry of like the whole Catwoman Batman kind of thing, which has always been throughout the comics and everything, I thought was actually pretty well done. A little, I don't know, I felt like it was a little hard pressed and early at some points, where I was just like, I don't feel like they've known each other quite long enough for the relationship to develop this far. Because they were like acquaintances for the most part. I think as far as what they did with her for Catwoman, in terms of like, yeah, I got a thing for cats, I loved it. I thought it was great. As I told my I told my wife, I was like, I'm having a hard time with this Catwoman. And she goes, why? And I go, because she's not very good at the whole stealing things. She keeps getting caught. The first time by Batman, which, okay, I can give that. Like, it's Batman, sure. But like every other like outfit after that, where she tries to steal things. I mean, one guy, she basically ganks the bag of cash from him on a motorcycle while he's on the ground, and I was just like, she didn't really she didn't cat burglar anything. She just straight up stole a bag of cash from that guy. so I was just like, I didn't feel like they did a good job of establishing Catwoman is this really well accomplished cat burglar. That's what she's good at. I didn't think they did a good job of that. It's like, it was great that they introduced the whip, but again, she takes out like two guys and doesn't really show like expertise of the use of the whip. And I couldn't straighten out whether the whip was metal or actually Kevlar. And it goes back and forth in the comics. I know, like it's not super consistent. So there were just those like little things that I had an issue with. But overall, did I think Zoe Kravitz did a bad job of it? No. Am I a little biased because she's Lenny Kravitz's daughter? Absolutely yes. So I'm willing to give it to her. But I think there was more they could have done with the material to really flesh out the character much better. But I don't think anything that was delivered there was necessarily terrible or bad. Overall, enjoying.
Yeah, I mean, I think my main comment is what is agreeing with you, James, about the relationship, that I felt like, well, they did have on-screen chemistry. I felt like we went to like, we are like, you know, super close, like really quickly. And then maybe I mean, I kind of waffle on it because I'm like, he has literally nobody other than Alfred in his life. So would he be like quick to form an attachment to somebody? Okay. And it doesn't seem like she has many people in her life either. So, you know, maybe that does create a situation where two people just become really close really fast. But that was the one thing for me, like I was kind of like, I'm not sure I really buy. It feels like they're just like, oh yeah, Batman and Catwoman, they're supposed to have a thing, so like let's force this, like when Lois kisses Superman in Man of Steel, which I felt like was such a forced moment where it's like, she just met him like a few hours ago, and she's just like, you know.
Well, you know what? It's just a matter of they're both into a little bit of BDSM, and that clearly is what linked them together.
Oh man.
I think the more realistic version of that would be, he's really lonely and she's always in heat.
Okay, so Beth, what did you think about Catwoman?
Well, I was thinking when James was mentioning about her supposed cat burglary skills, we have a cat, and she's a black cat, and her name is Felicia because of Spider-Man, but be that as it may, saying bye Felicia to her is fun. She is also a very bad cat burglar. She's also a very good cat burglar. It depends on what she's going for and who's nearby. The other night, she was getting into the pizza boxes on the counter, and guess who caught her? The dog. The dog blew the whistle on the cat, and that was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen, because their dynamic is hilarious. So there are some cats who are really good at stealing, some who are not, and some who are both. It depends on the flavor of the week. So I really do think that she could have that cat burglary skills. I've seen the equivalent of a motorcycle bag of cash drive-by from our cat at home. So I don't think that's unreasonable. I honestly think that whoever wrote those little thievery things probably owns a cat.
They're not always graceful either. That's something that I learned as I see her fall off things, and I'm just like, oh, I thought you were supposed to be like really like graceful and everything. Nah, she just like
and then
falls
she
off
looks
a
at you
table.
with her tongue. She looks at you with her tongue hanging half out, and she's like, "You saw nothing."
Yeah. All right, but yes, I mean, so but still, like, I mean, James's point is less of does she accurately depict a cat than that, you know, the idea of Catwoman is supposed to be she's supposed to be a really awesome cat burglar, and it doesn't seem like this version is. Did you have anything more to add about Catwoman, Beth?
The mask did bug me too.
Okay.
I'll give you that.
All right,
Say,
Daffy.
if it didn't bother Beth, I was gonna be really upset and disturbed that like there were like little things about Batman suit, but that mask somehow didn't bother her.
And I will say that those nails were definitely 100% acrylic. And that line of work, you're going to a nail salon once a week and you're getting some acrylic plastered all over your fingers. So yes, those are definitely fake.
Yeah, I certainly thought fake as soon as I saw him. But anyway, all right. So, Daviar, what do you think about Catwoman?
Yeah, it's funny because when you asked the question, I just kind of sat for a second in blankness, and because I do think, and it's nothing against. I think Zoe is fine. I just think it's an underwritten character.
Mhm.
I think it is. She's Catwoman because she's supposed to be Catwoman. They have a thing for each other because they're supposed to have a thing for each other. I don't know what's the significance of the Catwoman persona for her. I don't know what her. I mean, she has that. They have that conversation on top of the building where she's talking about going after like the oligarchy and the powerful. But I don't know to do what. I don't know if it's more about that. I don't know if it's about going after the oligarchy or if it's about just getting revenge on Carmine Falcone for what happened to her mom. I don't know what her prime foundation is. I don't know that once Carmine Falcone is down, is she done with Catwoman? Or, I don't get who, what, or the why. And at first I was thinking, like, are they into each other because these are two people out here risking their lives to do something? But then I keep coming back to, but I don't know what she's really here to do. And I think it's a very valid point to kind of talk about the suit because I don't like the makeshiftness of it, and particularly if you're someone that's doing these burglaries and going after the powerful. I would expect you to be in a position where if something went down, you would be better protected, better hidden. So just for your own safety, your own perseverance. So I don't think that the thought that was clearly put into so much of this world and these other characters, I don't think it was put into Catwoman. And that's unfortunate because I think if she were a stronger developed character, then I think that would have made everything else between her and Bruce work so much better. So that's where I am.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I felt like she was kind of underserved myself, and that's the thing is, it's like I liked them together, but it feels like this movie, even with 3 hours, was trying to do too much with the characters that it had. Now we're kind of running out of time here. I know that we got to talk about Oz. The Penguin in this, and then I think I'm going to open it up so that everybody can just mention like anything else that you wanted to talk about really quick. But yeah, so Colin Farrell, not that you would recognize him. He looks like, oh crap, I forgot the name of the actor he looks like, but
Richard Kind.
Yeah, Richard Kind. Yeah, with the makeup on. It's like, why didn't you just cast Richard Kind? Because like you just basically made Colin Farrell up to be Richard Kind, but I get it.
He didn't do well in the audition, I guess.
Right? Yeah. Well, it would be a very different performance, I think, even though they look so similar. Yeah. So we had him as the Penguin in this. So start us off, Daviar. What do you think about the Penguin?
Look, I love Colin Farrell. I think that dude has proven over these recent years that he is a phenomenal actor. I think he is incredibly diverse in what he can do, and I think he's come a long way from like the pretty boy Irish guy who curses a lot into being like a really. That wasn't my attempt at an Irish accent. No, it wasn't at all. But I think he's really shown that he's fantastic, and he's good in this. I am interested in why they feel they had to put him in the suit when there have been iterations now of the Penguin being regular sized, and particularly still being, and so I think he could have played that, and I think it could have been just as effective if he wasn't in the suit. So I'm interested to see what the motivation was behind it, other than to have that be just a talking point for the film. Like, ooh, you can't recognize it's Colin Farrell, but yet everybody knows it's Colin Farrell, but you can't recognize him. But I think the performance is good. But again, as it's kind of been a thing here, it's interesting that in a 3-hour movie, I still feel he's a little underbaked and underused. So I don't know quite how that happens, because again, it's like there's too many characters here. And I feel like if we would have maybe removed Carmine and that subplot and kept more of those scenes centered around Penguin and what the Penguin's motivations are, what the Penguin's trying to do, and becoming the city's main gangster, I think that would have been better served for the performance that Colin is putting in. So that's where I'm at. Great performance, but I think he's underutilized, and I would have liked to have seen a lot more of him.
Okay. Ryan.
It feels like Batman movies are a vehicle for Daredevil actors to try again.
Wow.
I mean, I expect Jennifer Garner to be, I don't know,
I was
Poison
about
Ivy
to
or
say,
something.
who is Jon Favreau going to play?
Yeah.
Hello, Brandon.
Yeah. But I mean, it just feels like his role. Well, see, I feel like Catwoman's, whether she was underserved, and I won't argue she was, while her role was necessary for Bruce's development, Penguin's role in this movie felt more like it was just his own development. It felt like they were setting him up for the next movie. That's all this was. Here he is.
He's getting a series on HBO Max.
Yeah, I heard the rumor. Has that been greenlit? Is it actually?
I'm pretty sure that was confirmed, but I guess I don't know for 100%.
It wouldn't surprise me, although I think he's going to find getting into that suit for a movie is one thing. Getting into it for a series.
It's on a streaming
idea.
service. It's probably like a 6-episode series or something like that. It's probably not huge, but it is more runtime than a movie. Yeah.
Yeah. And with more screen time. So yeah, I mean, I like the character was certainly interesting. I would definitely check it out. Especially if it's got Jeffrey Wright as Gordon opposite him. I mean, theoretically that would make sense. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. He came across as it felt like the third background story was just not necessarily his origin, but his rise to power in the movie. So my whole feeling on that matter is, again, he was kind of like the comic relief. He was absurdly silly, I got you, and then here, Batman comes out of the fire in his vehicle, and like I said, he's the only one.
That was delicious, and you know it.
Yeah.
I was just glad he didn't have 3 little flipper fingers.
Or an umbrella. I mean, but so I don't know. I mean, I just, for him, it just felt more like setup. Maybe we'll get Catwoman again. Maybe we won't. She's not necessary, but I definitely feel like the next movie will have Penguin in a bigger fashion.
Yeah, he wasn't eating raw fish or anything like that.
Not yet. Running for mayor or whatever.
Jesus.
Beth, what did you think of Penguin?
Pretty much echoing everyone else here. I really appreciated the makeup as it was done, rather than giving him like a fake nose tip or whatever, like we saw in Gotham, or just something completely overblown. But it looked like an actual person's nose.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always been like the defining feature of Penguin is the nose. But just everything about him was more toned down, which I appreciated in general. But yeah, I definitely feel like this was a proto-Penguin, I suppose, developing into something else or somewhere else.
James?
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Hot Ones, because I watched the Hot Ones interview with Colin Farrell and his discussion about being under the makeup, because he was actually super apprehensive about it before they started filming. And then he came to find out it was incredibly liberating for him as an actor. Like, he was just like, I didn't feel like I had the pressure of being like Colin Farrell. Like, I felt like I could just be
Richard Kind.
Yeah. Until
if people don't like it, they'll blame Richard Kind.
I was gonna say, until you had said it, I didn't see it, and then you said it, and now I see it. But yeah,
that wasn't me.
The thing is I don't see Richard Kind like commonly, so it was like I didn't make the connection.
But once you have,
exactly, I can't
now
go
it's
back
gone.
now. I mean, I think so it is actually greenlit. I looked it up while we were discussing it. So it is actually greenlit as a limited series. So I imagine it'll probably be like a 5-6 episode kind of thing, which could be interesting. Because I echo what everybody else has said here. I think a lot of this was set up for this character. I thought it was really interesting the way that this character isn't his own standalone thing from the get-go. Like he's a henchman. He's the right hand of Carmine Falcone, which in a lot of the comic iterations has never been a thing. The Cobblepots were like the rival family to the Waynes in terms of like power. And so like the Cobblepots had ran against Thomas Wayne. Like his dad had ran he had ran against Thomas Wayne for mayorship of Gotham, and had lost. And there's even in some of the comic iterations, there's rumor that he had hired a guy to kill Thomas and Martha Wayne kind of thing. So I think this is an interesting spin to go with. No, he's just some mob guy who worked for Falcone, outs Falcone. Falcone dies, and yeah, it's like now the story of the Penguin, his rise to power. I did like that they kept like these clubs that are synonymous to the Penguin, the 44 Below Club and all that, the Iceberg Lounge. I loved it because I actually got to play those in the video game and see like those worlds. So it was interesting to see that implemented in there as well. I do like the fact that, they didn't go with any of the stereotypes of what we've seen about the Penguin, the super pointed nose and really over the top with those prosthetics and everything. So I'm interested to see more, whether this villain becomes more progressive in terms of how he stands against Bruce, or if he is kind of because the Penguin is, while he's a big bad guy, I've never felt like he was anything that stood hard against Batman. It was like, yeah, you got a bunch of guys and you're a mob guy, I'll just like punch you in the face and put you in jail, it's fine. That's how the Penguin has always felt to me in a lot of iterations. So it'd be interesting to see if he does rise to be a bigger threat than he is, or if he just maintains that kind of status.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting, watching him, and definitely interesting to see Colin Farrell, in that role. I just don't feel like there's anything, at least from what I know of the Penguin from the past, in that character. Like it felt like, whereas Riddler feels like an updating, Penguin feels like this is a completely different character, other than the fact that he's in the, like, he is a gangster.
He has
That's
no
the
umbrella.
only thing that links him to like other iterations.
Zero umbrella.
Right. Yeah, no umbrella, no funny walk, like no. Oh, there was that point where like his feet were tied together and so they gave him a little waddle, but it was like, that's really tenuous, guys, because that was just for that one circumstance,
I just love
But it
that
was so
moment. I was
cute.
like, wait, did they just leave him in the middle of nowhere, handcuffed at the feet? Like that's a jerk move. I'm on his side.
Definitely.
But you know what? That is kind of messed up. Like he caused like a major pileup on a freeway. People died. There was millions of dollars of property damage, and they just let him go.
Yeah, and I guess it's weird because before the car pile up, I mean, do we see him do anything vicious at all? So it's just like, he's really kind of insignificant in a lot, throughout the film.
Right.
So that's why the series, to what we're saying, is going to be so interesting to see if that is when he becomes the Penguin, because he truly wasn't that here yet.
I guess it depends on where on the evil scale you would rank a mobster pimp, because I got the pimp vibes from him really strongly, and that just made my skin crawl.
Yeah, but he's never tried to destroy Gotham, so there's that. He just wants his cut. He doesn't want to kill mass genocide or kill millions, make them die of laughter, so there's that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was interesting. I mean, yeah, because they're setting him up and they're showing that he leaked the information and all of that, and it's they're making it more like again, they're trying to do origins for all these characters, and they're trying to do all this stuff for all these different characters to show, like who they're going to become, or how they're going to progress forward. And yeah, I just think that we needed more time to understand the character's fundamentals, and I think he's one that sort of suffers from that. But yeah, he's getting a series, whereas most of the other characters are not. So I mean, he actually gets another chance even before there's going to be another movie.
He's this franchise's Elektra.
Oh no! Let's hope not.
Yeah. All right. So James, we're coming to the end here, but if there's anything we haven't talked about, or if you just want to say what you want to see in the next movie, here is your forum. Just try to keep it fairly short, just bullet points, not too deep.
Yeah, I'll try not to let the whiskey talk too much.
Okay.
It's so, and the funny thing is like in the middle of this, I found something darker. But yeah, I'm really excited, honestly. I've been a little burned out with the Batman as far as a lot of the movies. Like, there's been a lot of movie interpretations of Batman recently, and I was getting a little burnout because I was just like, you're not adding anything to the character. You're just playing on tropes and stories that already exist. I feel like this Batman is definitely unique in its own right.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that so much. I do feel like there was missed opportunity right in the beginning of that movie when he fights like 9 guys. And he goes, I am vengeance. And I was like, I am the knight. I am Batman. Where is it? So he never delivered. And then I made the joke with my wife. I was like, maybe that's what the sequels will be, is like they'll do the Batman 2, and then he'll be like, I am the knight. And then by Batman 3, he'll be like, I am Batman. I did appreciate Batman growl. I felt like he maintained it better. It didn't sound like Christian Bale, who sounded like he was out of breath constantly.
I'm just saying, like, look, that's the best secret identity that he had. They're looking for a smoker as Batman, and he's like, I've never touched a cigarette.
Right. But I did feel like this was a really good outing to a new interpretation of Batman. Honestly, this is what I've wanted for a really long time. I wanted them to explore that whole like early Batman world, like Batman Year One kind of vibe, and I think that they did this really well. I was really apprehensive eventually hearing about a new Batman movie. I think Matt Reeves really delivered a lot in this. I didn't, until we kept talking about it and it kept being mentioned, like, this is a 3-hour movie. I never really thought about the fact that, like, I watched it just the day before this podcast. I didn't even think about the whole time, like, oh yeah, this is like 3 hours, because they did keep me engaged. I thought the world of Gotham was really engaging, although there were times I was like, is that downtown Seattle? That feels like downtown Seattle at night. But no, there were a lot of good things. I'm excited for what possibilities lie in the future for this franchise. I would like to see them do more. I would like to see them give Matt Reeves more time to like develop this character, to develop these villains. I want to see what happens if we see a reprisal of the Riddler and how he changes. I want to see if they bring in the Joker and that difference, because we see that a little bit towards the end, at the end of the movie, in those not quite post credits, but kind of post credit scenes. Yeah, I'm just excited. I'm really excited to see where this goes.
All right, and Beth.
I kind of don't want to have another Joker in the next one, just because I feel like we're drowning and getting drunk in the current, so much Joker stuff going on right now. I would like them to have someone else to bring in that's not the Joker. I feel like it's just too much.
I will say this, and this actually got me excited. Matt Reeves said in an interview that, in his opinion, even someone like Mr. Freeze could be done in a grounded way.
Yeah,
I want to see that movie.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes, I would love to see Mr. Freeze. That would just be great.
Don't cast Arnold. Don't cast Arnold.
But we did say grounded.
And don't cast Jason Momoa as Mr. Freeze. I mean, I know he's supposed to be Aquaman, but please.
My man.
James, how dare you? How dare you?
Well,
How
it's a
dare
different
you?
Earth, James. Anyway, so they already said the Batman is Earth 2. So
That's fair. That's fair.
It's good enough for me.
Okay.
But yeah, I would like to see more progression with the Bruce Wayne side of things, not like the air quotes perfect Bruce Wayne that we've been exposed to in previous iterations, like the animated series, Be Still My Heart. But just little baby steps. I don't want this to be an overnight thing. Oh, movie 2, let's just bang out the Bruce Wayne stuff and get it perfect. No, I don't want that. I want it to be like toddler Bruce Wayne, if that makes sense. Like, we just had infant Bruce Wayne. He was just born. Let's get toddler Bruce Wayne in there.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Yeah, let's save the perfected Bruce Wayne for like movie 3 or 4, where someone walks into his office as CEO and he says, "Hey, how's it going?" in a way that you'd never hear words come out of Batman's mouth. That sort of thing. That level of progression it takes more time than one event to make it, the idealistic.
Yeah, in the movies, I think the only time you've seen the real juxtaposition between Batman and Bruce Wayne done well is with the Christian Bale. Whereas Bruce Wayne, he was the wild, crazy playboy, and as Batman, he was swear to me. So, we got like the
I just thought of something.
Usually Bruce is way too broody in most of these iterations. Yeah.
Yeah. I need it in my soul. I need to see the Master of Disguise.
Yeah.
I need it.
Well, here's something we didn't mention, but this is one of the things that I liked. And again, with the Riddler being a riff on Batman, it was kind of like this. The anonymity. The fact that he would just change from Batman to Bruce and just ride around on a motorcycle, still doing Batman business. But that's like, again, showing like, how does a guy dressed like a bat get around the city and do stuff? And it's just like, he's just a guy with a backpack on a motorcycle half the time, and I really love that, like the idea of like he can just become anonymous like that. Yeah. Without having to have the mask,
yeah.
DoorDash Batman. That needs to be a webcomic now. Someone out there, do it.
All right. Ryan, what do you think?
Well, I mean, obviously, I think the next movie we need to see Tom and Martha get shot, because I completely I mean, I'm not completely
what went down there.
Yeah, because we don't really know what happened, even though they talk about it a lot in this movie. We have to actually see it in detail.
Was she wearing pearls? I don't know.
For the longest time, I haven't been with the rest of the internet hating Ryan, but in this moment, I join them.
It's about time.
You've just made him stronger, James. He feeds
and my
on
collection's
your
complete. I have all 6 shows.
Now reality can be whatever I want.
But yeah, so I mean, I'm glad we didn't get that. No one commented on it, or at least not that I recall, but something I think they should explore in the second movie. And again, this goes to the fact that he's a tank right now. He's just barreling through this. And in the third act, we saw him inject what I'm guessing is venom. It might have been adrenaline. But I'm betting it was venom. So I would love to see, the back half of the second movie deal with Bruce's addiction, trying to overcome that, using it as a crutch and then getting past it. So I would love to see an exploration of that.
I thought you were going to say you wanted to see Bane.
Forgot. Oh no! I don't really see Bane, not yet. I mean, but here's the thing. I
have a very low bar for Bane interpretations in a movie for them to exceed.
So I don't even want to talk about Bane right now. But the fact that we're getting a Penguin series, I feel like they have a plan for this, sub universe. We're probably someone said, I think Beth said something about movie 4, movie 5. Yeah, I can see that being a possibility for this franchise, going 5 movies out and keep Matt Reeves as the head of it, of this little subset universe, and explore it with side series and everything. Save Joker for at least the third movie, if not further out, and Bane maybe even further out than if you have to. next movie, the character I want them to bring in is because they've never done him. Well, they did do him in Gotham, but I never watched it. But it's Hugo Strange. I would love to see him, and if they deal with Bruce's addiction, I feel like it could be brought in that way somehow, because it also deal with the whole psychological complex that they're kind of been hinting at in this entire movie. That and I would kind of have a love-hate relationship with the subway Batcave. Subway station Batcave. It kind of makes sense, but again, I just feel like it's just not Bruce utilizing all the resources that he has. So maybe, I don't know, maybe do something like that. Maybe not. It's fine, but as long as if they're going to keep it, I just want somewhere in the background to see the Bat Blimp, and then I'm good.
Well, yeah, I still liked it better because even though they showed like the entrance was like near like Wayne Tower, it wasn't like, oh no, the Batcave is under Wayne Tower like in Batwoman,
Yeah.
where it's just like, no.
But I mean, an abandoned subway station makes practical sense.
Right?
I mean,
Yeah, no,
you wouldn't
I
see
thought
an
that worked really well.
engineering crew. Yeah,
And I really liked, again, because of the whole thing of how everything like looks like put together here. Like his table with his bat computer, quote unquote, looked like some odds and ends of electronics that were just sort of like put together, and it's all dirty everywhere and everything. And I really liked that sort of like idea of like, yeah, this is all like DIY Batman. This is not.
He raided the IT department.
He went to Radio Shack in Circuit City on their closeout dates and bought their entire stock and used that to build his Batcave.
I mean, yeah, I mean, this Batman's so young that he doesn't even know what those are.
Right. Right. Somebody did the math and said like his parents were shot outside of Shrek.
Yeah. Wait, his parents were shot?
Yeah. What children's movie was playing? Well, because they mentioned that they were shot. They didn't show it. But... All right. But anyway. All right, Daviar, what have we talked about yet that you want to talk about, or what do you want to see in the next one?
That damn Ryan took my fire. I mean, I'm so happy that the Waynes we did not see the Waynes getting shot again. Thank the Lord on high. One thing I want to give a little bit more shout out time to is the Batmobile. I think this is actually my favorite interpretation of the Batmobile. Even though I think the Tumbler was more practical, and its functionality and what it could do. I love the design of the souped up muscle car, and I think how the engine was like a character piece of it as well with the red light. I love the design of the Batmobile. This is probably my favorite version of it. So shout out to the design on that. And I was a little bit with Beth. I was with you in the post-credit scene of, dear God, do not give us another interpretation of the Joker, particularly this one in this post-credit scene. But when the deleted scene came out and it showed the Barry Keoghan interpretation and that Batman one-on-one scene, I was totally flipped. I did a complete 180 and what a Barry Keoghan Joker could be and how effective that could be in a Matt Reeves world. So actually, I'm very excited for them to take that step into that world because the entire design and the scarring of him, it's just all of it worked for me. And so if that's where we're going to go, I think that is a new interpretation of a film Joker. And so I think what they could bring to that with what they've already seen with them, what they attempted to do with the Riddler, I think if they go that even a step further with the Joker, I think could be next level and what we've never seen on screen. So that I'm ready for. And of course, give me more screen time with Andy Serkis. We got to have some real screen time for Alfred.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, for me, the one thing that I wanted to talk about from the movie that we haven't talked about at all is the music. I really love the main score that they did, the sort of unrelenting nature of it, the sort of, like, this is just, dun, 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 like, like that whole thing of just like, it just conveys this idea of just the determination, just the thing that's not going to come. My issue is that we could have had another piece of music, maybe one or two in the movie.
No, just that and Nirvana. That's all you get, buddy.
And yes, it is unrelenting, but for 3 hours of unrelenting, it is just too much. So my
Yes.
love of it originally like started turning to hate towards the end of the
Wow.
movie as I'm watching the credits, and it's still playing. And I'm just like, all right, guys. And all right, I'm being unfair. There was one other piece of music, but it was still. I don't know why or what. Like, did they run out of money after everything else? They're just like, man, we can only pay you for like 5 minutes of music that we're gonna put on loop.
If only Warner Brothers had a music library.
Yeah.
And so that's the
They're
thing.
like, nah.
I'm usually big on soundtracks, but like this one, like I'd be interested to hear the soundtrack. Like, how are they gonna fill like a 70-minute or 80-minute CD with a soundtrack for this movie unless it's just dun 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 dun, dun for 70 minutes? I don't know.
So it costs you $20.
Nathan, yeah. And the fact that Nathan referenced a CD just took me back to the 90s.
Yeah. Well, they still do publish CDs, so the soundtrack is still limited because it's got to have a CD version, even though most people are buying streaming. I still have my book of CDs in my car. But anyway.
Whoa! Look at that.
At least
In the
until the
visor?
car was stolen.
Oh, no.
Yeah, until the car was stolen. But I still have the book. Like, if somebody else gave me a book, they were like, because I was upset. I was like, oh man, like all my CDs that I've had for years, and somebody else gave me like a book.
Now, if I stole a car and I found a CD book in it, I would return the car just out of like.
Well, no, we found the car. They had
Okay.
apparently just thrown it out. Like they had just like like that wasn't left in the car. So anyway,
Yeah, the only CD that survived was the one that was in the player.
right.
Shout out to Magical Girl Pretty Sammy.
That's right. All right. Right. So and then for a sequel movie, I already mentioned, like, I think Mr. Freeze would be a fantastic villain to use. I would be very interested in a Matt Reeves version of the character, because I mean, what we didn't get, and what I don't think they did in either Gotham or in the Batman and Robin movie, is we didn't get the pathos of Mr. Freeze. Like, we never got the, like Heart of Ice, the Batman the Animated Series episode with Mr. Freeze, is one of the most emotionally moving cartoon episodes of a show I've ever seen. How, when they did do movie versions or other interpretations, can they not get the fact, like, we're supposed to feel for this guy? That's supposed to be the core of it. Like, this is a tragedy. And so that's what I want. I want the tragedy of Mr. Freeze. I want us to feel for this guy and the sort of like horror of his situation, and the fact that there is no hope for him, and he just wants everyone else to feel that same lack of hope that he has. Like, that's what I want. So anyway, that would be my sequel movie. But then beyond that, it's just, if you're gonna keep making 3-hour movies, like, make sure that you make that pay off. Like, don't just say like, oh, we've got so much material. I mean, that's what editors are for. We got the director's cut right off the bat on this one, so make that.
That's what you think.
So that's what I would want.
The music definitely felt like it was composed by someone who spent their entire musical life in the bass section, where there's no melody, no feature. Like, because I was back there on bass clarinet because I didn't want to be near piccolo, but just like the baritone, the tuba, all those guys, like, this was your swan song to the detriment of everybody else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I liked it. I liked that piece. I just wanted a little more variety than what we got, because I think there was like one other piece of music besides like the club background music and stuff like that is separate. But I'm talking about like actual movie score music. All right. But let's say our goodbyes and let people know where they can find us. So let's start with you, Deviar.
Come to Canada, hang out, Stratford Festival, and so that's where I am right now. So safe travels to myself as I drive up the road.
All right, and Ryan.
You can probably find me on soon to be released coming episode of the 42 cast. But other than that, yeah.
Nicely done.
Yeah. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, feel free to check out Geek Stranger because it's a thing that exists on the internet. And you know, theoretically someday I will do something with it. So in the meantime, it's just collecting dust. You track me down on Facebook or Twitter if you want to start an argument with me. I will I will quite probably engage with you because you're probably wrong. And otherwise, yeah, just hang out with me until we get to Dragon Con or something.
Actually, I think you are on the Loki episode, so that means, yeah, just a couple weeks after this one drops, people will hear you on the 42 cast again. All right, so Beth, why don't you say goodbye and let people know where they can find you?
Just skip me because I can't breathe.
Okay, James. While she asphyxiates, why don't you say goodbye and let people know where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Roman on the Rocks on pretty much every social media forum that there is, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, hopefully now that I've got the new job, maybe I can get back to doing some writing and some other stuff.
All right. And Beth, are you ready now?
Mostly. Just the idea that you and Ryan are both the type to stay up on the computer because someone's wrong on the internet just warns me.
Well, it's usually Nathan, you know.
Ryan used to be that way, but he hasn't been online so much lately.
Oh, God.
We had like 45. We had like a comment like of 45 back and forths of us like arguing about Pluto and its status as a planet or not.
Yeah. And I've said before, anytime you want to do a Pluto podcast, let me know.
Well, if you get your buddy Neil,
and wear it for that occasion.
we'll have him on.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I can breathe now. We're good. Stretching. So you can find me at Facebook. The name of the page is Mrs. Whiskers Studios with 2 S's back to back because I have an alarming lack of foresight. I pretty much let go of the whole like personal Facebook thing. So if you're one of my friends on there, I'm sorry. I do exist. I just don't care about Facebook anymore aside from the business side of things. Mrs. Whiskers Studios is also on Etsy where I do all my sewing business, stuff for kids, cosplay. If it involves a needle and thread in my hand, I'm probably going to be making it. And so far, that's pretty much it. Yeah, hi.
Okay. All right. Well, Daviar, Ryan, Beth, James, thank you so much for being on the show this week.
Always a pleasure.
It was fun.
Indeed. Fun times.
And that's a wrap on our episode on The Batman. We hope that you enjoyed it, and you can let us know in a variety of ways. One way is to email us at everything@42cast.com. Another way is to go to our Facebook at facebook.com/42cast. Another way is to tweet to us at 42cast or to go on our Instagram at 42cast. You can also leave us reviews on Stitcher or Apple Podcasts. With Apple Podcasts, we really appreciate that because the more reviews that we have, the better it promotes us in searches. And so if you want to help the show thrive, feel free to leave a review on Apple Podcasts to help us out. Also wanted to mention the ESO Network Patreon. That's where you can support all the shows on the network. You can go to patreon.com/ESO Network. You can see all the different tiers. You can see what you get for those tiers. And if you contribute, we would appreciate it. I also wanted to let you know about 2 other podcasts that I appear on. One is Time Streams, where my friend Juliet and I are going through all of Doctor Who from the beginning. You don't have to buy the episodes to follow along with us because we explain everything that happens in the story. So if you just want to know a little more about Classic Who, you just want to follow our banter, you can do it that way. But obviously you get a little bit more out of it if you also follow along with the episodes. So if you want to do that, you can do it that way as well. The other podcast is Legendary Forces, where, again, Juliet and myself, but also joined by Corey, Ashley, and Joe, we are going through all of Star Wars fictional media from the beginning. So that is the movies, TV shows, comics, novels, basically anything that happens inside the Star Wars universe. We talk about the quality of whatever we're reviewing, but we also talk about the expanding idea of what Star Wars is, what is canon, what isn't canon, how it changes over time and all that kind of stuff. So if that sounds interesting to you, once again, that is Legendary Forces. In con news, of course, I'll be at Chicago TARDIS this year in November, but I am strongly leaning towards going to Fan Expo in the summer. It was down to either C2E2 or Fan Expo, and the guests at Fan Expo are looking much more interesting, at least right now. So that's the way I'm leaning, but I reserve the right to change my opinion at any point between now and then. But if you are in the Chicago area or plan on being in the Chicago area and want to go to Fan Expo, I will be happy to meet you. And if you are going to C2E2 and really want me to go there, feel free to email at everything@42cast.com or go to any of the other places that I mentioned and let me know why you think I should go to C2E2 instead. In other news, I have just gotten over COVID. I'm not quite over it yet because I still have this lingering cough, but I'm testing negative for it. So if you've heard me kind of scratchy in these intros and outros, then that is the reason why. So yeah, everybody, continue to mask, continue to social distance, because COVID is not over. So just because nobody's requiring that you do those things, you can still be a good human being and do them just for the sake of helping your fellow man. I'm doing it, and I don't see anyone else doing it right now. So I never stopped doing it in the last 2 years. So it'd be appreciated. And that is a wrap on our episode today. Join us back next week when we'll be joined once again by Sean Rosato, Mark Finn, and Kimmy Hughes to talk about all things RPG as we wrap up our role model segment. Don't worry, I'm not done talking about gaming. I have other ideas for other topics that we can go into with gaming, but this is sort of the culmination of having them on to talk about the fundamentals of gaming as well as content creation and all that kind of stuff. So hope to see you there, and until then, this is Nathan, signing off. You have been listening to the 42 Cast, copyright 2021. Got a question for the ultimate answer? Contact us at everything@42cast.com. Theme music is Sharper Swords by Brandon Ellis. Check out more of his work at www.cityfires.com. The 42 Cast is a proud member of the ESO Network.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.